I hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy. It is my pleasure to introduce Hillary, our program director, or our program chair for the Southern Arizona Attractions Alliance, and she will be introducing our special guest this morning. Hillary, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me okay? Good morning.
I hope you don't have to leave us. I actually was out last night at my daughter's house for my granddaughter's birthday and saw the fire up in the mountain. It was just so scary looking.
It is scary. And if we lived in the Middle Ages, they'd say, this is the apocalypse. It's the end of days. Luckily, we don't live in that time period.
So, well, I hope everything goes well for you and your family.
I hope so too. We've had a lot going on this year. We all have. Everyone has.
Yeah. Like just one more thing to add to the list.
It is. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to introduce our speaker who we're very lucky to have. And in regards to that, I'm going to keep the intro extremely short. It would probably take me about half an hour to go through all of the amazing certifications and positions he's held both in the community and with government agencies. I want to introduce Jason Freeman from Six Flags, and he has a long title, Corporate VP of Security, Safety, Health, Environmental, and Risk Management. That is a mouthful, but he's very well qualified to tell us about his experiences with opening several Six Flags properties. As you know, Six Flags are very large theme parks, and they're throughout the United States. Been to several myself, and it's really it's like a city. You know, they have a lot of they have food, they have retail, they have rides. There's a lot involved in it. So I think we're going to get really great information from him. Again, very well qualified to tell us about how to reopen, best practices, how they've been learning as they go. So without further ado, I want to welcome Jason Freeman from Six Flags. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Tom and Wendy, for inviting me to speak to your association today. I think these associations are very relevant and very needed throughout our industry. I'm a past president of the New England Association of Music Parks and Attractions, and I've been a longtime member for years. And I think these are the types of associations that keep our industry strong, keep us in sync with each other, to help each other when needed, large or small size properties. I think everybody benefits from being a part of these associations. So I'll just give a quick recap about Six Flags. Most of you, I'm sure, are aware of who we are and what we do, but we're the largest regional theme park company in the world. We currently operate 26 properties across the United States, Mexico, and Canada. We are also the largest operator of water parks. And I'm very excited that we have obtained Wet and Wild, which is now Hurricane Harbor, Phoenix. It's very exciting to be in Arizona and be part of the makeup there. I'm going to talk a little bit today about our reopening plans. It is a plan that we put together at Six Flags. It's not Jason Freeman's plan. It's the plan of a lot of people within our organization, and also a lot of people outside the organization. We worked very closely with our friends at IAPA, with John Hollenbach as a cohort, where we have exchanged ideas and best practices to try to create some standards for the theme park and entertainment industry, so that we are all hoping to be in somewhat of an alignment as we reopen. So I'm going to share my screen here, if my technology ability is appropriate. Let me make sure I can do this. Does everybody see the Six Flags Entertainment reopening policy?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, great. So, this is about 90 days in the making, if not a little bit longer. We started with a policy on how we were going to operate our parks during COVID-19. We created a 5-phase plan on what would happen within a community as COVID-19 grew, up to and including shutting our parks down, which of course we ended up doing. As we shut the parks down, we knew that we would have to reopen. So we immediately began putting together a strategy on our reopening plan, really following the guidance of CDC, the World Health Organization, and then talking again, as I alluded to just a few minutes ago, with our counterparts within the industry of ideas and things that we think we would need to do. As was said earlier, you know, it takes a village to do these types of programs, and our program did. And you know, we do operate, as most of your facilities do. If you look at your facility, we're pretty much a city within a city. So we have culinary, you know, we have ride operations. We own a marine life park, so we have an aquarium, if you will, rather large, if you want to term it that way. And of course, we operate the largest safari, drive-through safari outside of Africa, in New Jersey. So, you know, we have retail locations and so on. So part of our plan, and what you see here is the 50,000-foot view of our plan that we have made public to states and health departments that we are talking to about getting the ability to open our parks. But behind this 50,000-foot view plan is a very detailed, deep dive, 42-page plan that supports this, that talks about everything we're doing in every department. And it really did take a village to do this, because when we were looking at culinary, you know, I'm not a culinary expert. I don't pretend to be a culinary expert. So, you know, we had culinary write the guidelines for culinary based on best practices from health departments and so on. And the same thing with retail and so on from there. So, you know, what we decided to do is, what is the best way to build our protocols? And so we decided, number one, we needed a robust health policy. What were we going to require guests to, and team members, by the way, because your back of house has to be as robust as your front of house. It's about protecting your team members as much as your guests. So we wanted to make sure that, number one, first and foremost, our team members were going to feel comfortable coming to work in order to invite our guests to come into the park. So we wrote a set of general protocols. And then behind those general protocols are the deep dive items that each department would follow. So we came up with, you know, the health policy that's online that everybody has to adhere to. So when you come to Six Flags, you have to make a reservation right now. And then when you make that reservation, you are agreeing to our health policy. You're agreeing that you're going to feel healthy when you come visit the park, and you're agreeing that you will abide by the policies of wearing a mask, staying socially distant from other people outside of your group, and so on. And then screening protocols. Again, it is a mandate by most of governmental agencies that we have to provide screening at the minimum of our team members. So again, to help support our team members, if our team members have to be screened, then we should require our guests to be screened, and that's the items that we came up with. And then, of course, our social distancing protocols. So we actually had to get out in the park, and we had to figure out how we were going to socially distance guests appropriately throughout the park. What is the park going to look like being socially distant? How are we going to manage queue lines for ride operations? How are we going to manage retail stores? How are we going to manage culinary? So our biggest approach was to become a property that could be as much hands-off as possible. So we reverted to technology to help us with that. So we've implemented mobile dining, where people can dine off of their phone. They can order their food directly on the phone and have it delivered to them where they're sitting, or go up to a window. We are in the middle of working on a virtual queuing system for ride operations. That's taking a little bit longer to implement. We're deployed technology at our front gate to, as you know, most of our parks have metal detection. To remove that wall of metal detection and the requirement of everybody's backpack and themselves having to be subject to a search, we've deployed new state-of-the-art technology that will allow free flow access while still being checked. And then we went to thermal imaging camera systems that will allow, again, guests and team members both to free flow through the facility without being stopped, unless, of course, there's an item that needs to be checked or a temperature that is a little bit higher. We implemented a reservation system to comply with what most states are requiring for capacity issues. You know, most of our parks are starting off at a 25 to 50% capacity opening. We are deploying socially distancing parking where we can. It's mandated in Texas that we have to provide 2 empty spots for every full spot. So that is probably the hardest challenge to work through. And it's also the challenge of understanding why it's needed. But it's a mandate, and we're going to follow that. And then where we don't have a mandate, we're just going to encourage guests to socially distance as they're parking. And then here, you know, again, in all of our seating areas, we've designed all of our dining areas, all of our takeout areas to provide for social distancing. One of the things that we are doing is we're mandating every guest and every team member have to wear a mask. It's very uncomfortable in heat. I was in Oklahoma last week for our opening of Frontier City. It was 101 degrees, which I know for you folks out in Arizona, that is like being 70 degrees anywhere else. But it was very, you know, it's very hot to wear a mask. So we've put in what we're calling mask break zones, and that are socially distant. We've taken areas of our parks that people can go into as a group and separate from other folks and be able to take their mask off and get a break. And we're doing the same thing for our team members. You know, again, it's all about venue capacity to make the state happy to allow us to be able to open. One of the things that, you know, we have been encouraging the states to realize is that, you know, theme parks are not like sporting venues. You know, we are open. We have 200, 300 acres in some cases where people can freely roam around the property away from each other other than their groups. So, you know, it's not like a sporting event where you're coming into a stadium and you're sitting next to somebody for 2 to 4 hours, depending on what you're watching. So we've been aggressively promoting, and with IAPA as well, why our venues and things that we do is different than a sporting event or a concert. And the same works for, you know, museums, aquariums, FECs. You know, we are professionals at moving people. That's what we do. We move people, no matter what size facility you are, indoor or outdoor. And that's the key. We're moving people. We're experts at moving people, and we know how to do that without jeopardizing health or safety. You know, our motto at Six Flags, and, you know, our park president, Fiesta Texas pretty well coined this, but, you know, we're all in the, we're a safety company that happens to operate rides or aquariums or whatever it is that we do, right? Because it's everything that we do is really, the foundation is about safety and making sure our guests and team members are safe when they come to work. So, you know, that is a great motto to use, because I think it really lets people realize what we do and how safe we operate and so on. So we have a very aggressive sanitization and disinfection program that we had to deploy. We have hundreds of hand sanitizer units throughout the park that we're encouraging guests to use. We put in washing stations. We are disinfecting our rides every 30 minutes. We are making sure that we have clean teams that we have put in the park, that specifically they go around and clean areas, high touch points, and so on. And they're identified in the vest called a clean team. Restrooms are very important as well. We are also ensuring that the guests feel that and see that, and we have deployed a messaging program called Do the Six. And it's really, we took it off of CDC Do the Five, but because we're Six Flags, we have to say six. And, you know, our last topic on that is, you know, obviously have fun. But we have a very aggressive messaging campaign throughout the park about sneezing, coughing, covering your mouth, wearing your mask, following social distancing protocols, and so on. And then we're also have public service announcements throughout the park, continuously reminding guests and our team members to follow the Do the Six things to stay safe while you're in the park. We have provided our team members with what we're calling an action pack. So every team member will receive a fanny pack, which is part of their uniform going forward. Within that fanny pack, they have a pair of safety glasses. They receive 2 cloth masks, Six Flags cloth masks for them to wear. That way one can be being laundered while they're wearing one, and a set of disposable gloves. The disposable gloves can be replaced throughout the day, however often that the team member is wearing them and needs to use that, needs to exchange them. And then obviously the safety glasses are in place of shields at POS locations or during ride loading opportunities, because we still have to check restraints. And although we're mandating that guests wear masks, we want to make sure that our team members are safe. Obviously, the way to catch COVID-19 is mouth, eyes, nose, and mouth. So every team member has this action pack. The other thing is, with the increased sanitization that we're doing, team members are working more and more with cleaning chemicals. So we want them to always have the ability to be able to put on the right protective equipment for the job that they're doing. The one thing that we've made very clear on the inside of the cloth mask is that it is not PPE in the traditional sense of what OSHA would recognize. So if a team member requires a higher level of protection for something that they're doing with a chemical or whatever, we want to make sure that they know they still have to ask, just like pre-COVID, to get the right mask for the job or the right set of gloves and so on. So that's the reason why we say that the cloth mask is not PPE, is not PPE in that environment. So it's important to separate that. OSHA has been very clear that cloth masks don't negate the need for regular personal protection equipment. The other thing is that if you are going to mandate your team members wear masks, you need to also make sure that they know that it should be your mask that you're providing, because again, once a team member comes on property and they punch in, it is you and your liability for what they're wearing. So if a team member decides that they want to wear an N95 mask, well, OSHA says that you have to fit test that mask, and you have to do a respiratory test and so on. So what you don't want to do is get yourself in trouble by allowing a team member to wear whatever mask they want, and then all of a sudden finding out that you're not in compliance with what OSHA is requesting. So just a little tips there. And then in culinary, again, we've stopped our self-service buffets. Any refillable drinks in our souvenir cups, we will provide a paper cup to be able to transfer into a fillable cup. Culinary utensils are all individually wrapped now, and same goes for ketchup packets and condiments. Those actually go on a plate as we serve the lunch or dinner. And again, behind the house, it's very important that we treat the team members as we do our guests. We have an onboarding program now that we do everything electronically through computer for hiring, our training. 60% of our training is done through these types of Zoom classes, as well as we have specific modules out there that team members can sign into to get their specific training. But of course, you still need hands-on training for lifeguarding. You still need hands-on training for ride operations, and there's certain types of training that we have to still do in-house, but we're doing it in a socially distant manner, and so So you can go on sixflags.com and pick any park, including Phoenix Park, and this document will be out there. Plus, you will see a video, about a 2.5-minute video that explains all the things that we are doing as a company to keep both our guests and team members safe. And then on the backside of the house for our team members, we have about a 9-minute video that talks about COVID-19 and the responsibility of the team member to ensure that they're wearing their personal protective equipment. And also, we're teaching our people how to support the protocols that we have in place, and asking guests to comply if they're not complying with the mask, or even fellow team members, because again, it's important that everybody's on board with this. So I did want to say, just to recap, as we're meeting with our states to get our parks open, you know, we try to convince them that we are a city within a city. So if you're allowing local restaurants in your area to open, why wouldn't you allow our restaurants to open, right? Because, you know, although we don't have names like In-N-Out Burger or TJ Maxx or whatever it might be, our city happens to have 15 restaurants and 20 retail locations, and you know, and some aquatic attraction or whatever it might be. So you know, we try to convince the city to say, hey, we're no different than the city that you're allowing to open with these retail locations. Allow us to do the same thing. And I think when they hear that, when your local government officials hear that, it starts to resonate and make sense. So you know, we have some exciting news. We're starting to get more parks open in a lot of states that look like we weren't going to be able to get open later on. So that's kind of the overview. I'm more of a question answer kind of person. I think it's better for you to ask the questions that you'd like to learn, how we either did something or where we got the information from, and how we put something together. So I'll open it up to questions, and hopefully I'll get you the answers that you like, and that can help you with your facility.
Oh, okay, Jason, thank you very much. Very informative. If you have a question, please keep yourself muted, but add your question to the chat room, and we'll try to get to all that we can. Jason indicated that he would be with us for a while. So let me get started with your over 20 parks. How are you determining which one was open first? And then after that question, what are some of the challenges you encountered that you, even with all the pre-planning, you were completely caught off guard? And of course, how did you solve them?
Yeah, well, in picking the park, it really is what state was going to allow us to get open first, you know, and operating. And Oklahoma was the state with the least amount of restrictions through the entire COVID-19 issue anyway. So it looked like that Oklahoma City would be the first one that we would be allowed to get open. The challenge that we have and we continually have is the ever-changing world of COVID-19 and guidance that changes almost daily by CDC and the WHO and those types of things. So you know, your plan has to be very fluid and has to be ready to change. And you know, we're on version 12 of our 42-page document, because it changes readily, and you just have to be fluid to do that. I think, you know, the biggest challenge is anytime you put a plan together is once you get it into execution, you know, what looked good on paper doesn't necessarily resonate with the execution of it. So, you know, it was great that we were able to open Frontier City first because we were able to get a lot of key learnings. We were also able to, you know, piggyback on the learnings of Universal as they got open, and Disney Springs, because, you know, we all have a lot of same items that were following on the same trajectory. So, you know, again, it was the hardest challenge is just changes from CDC, and then also the execution part, making sure that it works with the plan, and then fixing the plan where it doesn't work.
Before we go to Hillary, she's back. You had indicated how you're staying on top of all these challenges with each of the parks. Can you tell us what you're doing in order to keep in touch with everybody?
Yeah, so I mean, we as a company, we meet about almost every day, but we definitely meet 3 times a week. We have a standard call at 9:30 with all of our park presidents and all the key leadership of the parks, where we discuss where we are, what's going on, what changed overnight with a policy that we had in place based on something that might have changed with CDC or the WHO or even your local health department. One of the big things that we try to do is be consistent across the country with our policies, because where we have parks that can be driven to in multiple states. So if you live in Massachusetts, you can easily go to Lake George, Great Adventure, LaRonde in Canada, and so on within 3 hours. So it's very important that we're not doing a policy one way at one park and different at another park. That said, we do take into consideration if we have a local mandate that says you're going to have to do it this way. So these phone calls are really important because we stay in constant communication on the plan, the changes of the plan, and the execution of the plan. Now, in fairness, we've currently only opened Frontier City. We've opened the drive-through safari in New Jersey. So I still think we have a lot of key learnings that are ahead of us as we open more parks. Phoenix, Hurricane Harbor, is going to open Friday. So that'll be our second park. That'll be our second key learning area as well. So, but communication amongst your people is going to be very, very important. And also being open to what people are saying. I mean, your park, in my world, I sit here in corporate, obviously, but your park presidents, your directors within those parks, or your managers or supervisors, they're the ones that are executing the plan. You have to listen to them if they say, listen, this just isn't going to work. We have to relook at it. We have to back into it and that type of thing. And in the safety world, it's very easy to say no. You can't do it this way because it's just unsafe. But one of the things that I try to live by, and I try to promote with our own safety managers throughout the company, is it's okay to say no, but the next word should be but. Let's see what we can do to get this to work. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all here to have a viable company, a profitable company. We all succeed when the company is profitable. So we want to make sure that the policies that we're putting in place work. And prior to COVID-19, it's probably not apropos to say it this way now, but prior to COVID-19, that I've always ran my operation by saying, listen, let's not make the cure worse than the disease. Let's try to be, focused. Let's see what the real issue is and see how we can balance out the safety part with the operational part and get the program to where we want it to be, where everybody's safe. So you really have to be fluid in all aspects of what you're doing.
Okay.
Just real quick, John Hollenbach asked me to speak to one of the things that we are mandating every guest to wear a mask. CDC says 2 and under, no mask. Everybody else has to have a mask. We are enforcing that policy. So the question is ADA accommodation. What happens if a guest comes in and is requesting accommodation? So if a guest comes into our property and asks for an accommodation, our accommodation is that they can replace their mask with a face shield, but that does not allow them to get on any rides within the park. They have to, they cannot, number one, you can't ride a ride with a face shield. But number two, you can't ride a ride unmasked because it's a danger to our team members as well as anybody else that might be on the attraction. So we are mandating that you have to wear a mask to be on a ride or attraction. If you can't wear a mask while you're in the park and you want the accommodation, then we will accommodate the face shield versus the mask, but that doesn't get you in on any rides without the mask. Great
question, and John, great question. Answer, Jason. Back to you, Hillary. You're back.
I am back, yes. So we have a question from Maggie, and I'm going to kind of generalize this a little to get a little more information. So she says, how do you land on a 30-minute cleaning cycle? Are you posting any logs for customers to see to build confidence? So to kind of expand on that, you know, I'm sure each park is different. If you can maybe explain that a little more. And how are you having that transparency for the customers to, again, build that confidence that, you know, you're doing what you're saying you're doing?
Right. So that is a tricky point, because you also don't want to clean just to clean. So during your low capacity days, where or you know, you're working at 25% capacity in general, what we are saying is that if the rides are, and of course we have more popular rides than others, and so while you're at limited capacity, you don't necessarily have the attendance that your rides are transitioning, you know, every cycle. So what we say is that, you know, rides that are constantly in motion, we are going to clean every 30 minutes, or every. Now, if you have a ride though that is dormant for 30 minutes because there's nobody to ride it, we're not just going to clean it because we're at the 30 minutes. So at that point, we tell the parks, for those rides that are less popular, that and because of the light attendance that may not be turning every cycle, then they need to come up with a number of cycles versus the 30 minutes. So in high capacity, high flow rides that are constantly going, it's every 30 minutes. For rides that may be dormant for periods of time because of light attendance and they're not quite as popular as a roller coaster, a flat ride versus a roller coaster, we allow the parks to come up with a cycle time. One of the things that we're very focused on, so we don't get caught with somebody saying that we're not doing something we said we're doing, we try to use words like on a frequent basis or on a regular basis, not a continuous basis. You know, so we're trying to pick the right words also that doesn't back us into a corner, because we're very clear that somebody's going to be out there to say, hey, Six Flags said they're doing this and they're really not. So we're trying to balance that, trying to balance that out as well. So when you're writing your plan or you're going public with your plan, you know, make sure that the words you're using, you know, will help you if you get challenged on a certain policy or procedure they said you're going to be doing.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have another question from Wendy. Additional costs, obviously, you know, when you're working at a lower than normal capacity, you still have all your expenses, as everyone here knows, but you have fewer guests. It's, you know, it's nice to have a little traffic, things happening, but are there additional costs for all that cleaning? Because that, of course, is additional labor as well as supplies. Is that being passed on to the consumer? How are you dealing with that?
Okay, for us, we are not passing the additional costs on to the consumer. And I will tell you, no matter what size operation you are, do not underestimate the cost of the protocol for being able to get open. It is a true magnificent cost. Again, regardless of whatever size operation you are, it's all relevant, right? Whether you're a smaller operation or larger, we're just buying the same supplies in larger quantity. So I would recommend that you know, again, that's something that everybody has to look at. I mean, for us, we had to order 500,000 social distancing markers to do what we had to do for our parks. You know, the little markers, you know, the signage packages, the amount of cleaning supplies that we are ordering above what we normally order to ensure that these 30-minute cleanings and those things are happening. So that's a good point. We are not, you know, we are not pushing this on to our guests, but it is a true significant cost.
Great, thank you. I'm just asking if anyone else has any additional questions. Oh, here we have one from Tom. So, are you being challenged with the type of cleaning materials you are using?
Challenged in.
I'm guessing that could be, I'm so sorry, I'm guessing that could be, supply, whether it's, CDC approved, because they have to have a certain amount of, alcohol to kill the virus. So it's kind of a combination of, logistics, supply chain, and whether it's the right product that you're actually getting.
Yeah. So yes. So early on, we were very challenged in figuring out, number one, the product that we needed if we could get it. And it's still, there's more out there now. You guys are probably all getting 25 emails a day from some company that used to do something else, and all of a sudden they're making masks or UV things and all that type of stuff. So I would say just be very careful on what you're buying. And COVID-19. So I will tell you what I should have started with is we did hire an epidemiologist as a consultant that works with us, the same one that IAPA is using as well, to vet these types of products and ideas. So COVID-19 is still very young. I mean, the coronavirus has been around for a long time, and there are things that fight the coronavirus, but nobody can say at this moment that their product can 100% go up against COVID-19, because COVID-19 is new. There's still a lot to learn. There's been no real testing testing takes a year or so in a lab to say that their product doesn't. Even us, we've looked at a couple products that we thought was going to be state of the art and really great, and once we got it over to our epidemiologist to look at, he started asking the questions, and there was one company that were making claims on their website that they couldn't back up in support and paperwork. So just be very careful with who you're buying from and what you're buying and that type of thing. And now everybody seems to be a mass supplier and those types of things. But I would say be careful. Keep an eye on it though, because although there's an abundance now, it could take one more surge to derail your supply chain. So just make sure that you're ordering with that in mind as well, even though there seems to be a million suppliers out there now. Now the challenge is what product do we buy? Do we have the right product, and so on? And then there's hidden costs, right? So we bought our hand sanitization, our hand sanitizer and our disinfectant in bulk, right? 28,000 gallons. So now I'm shipping, instead of bottles, I'm shipping, 55-gallon drums to parks. And then all of a sudden that spurs another issue of self-containment. So, parks now have to buy $17,000 worth of self-containment to put the stupid barrels on. And so you have all these hidden costs that you're just going to have to be careful of as you start, putting your plan in place and so on. So I hope that answered your question.
That's great. Thank you. So we have, Tom, do we have time for 2 more questions?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have one from Stan. He's asking, Stan is with the Tucson Rodeo Parade. He's asking if there are any ideas for opening parades. And I'm sure some of your properties may have little mini parades that go through the streets. So that is his question.
Yeah, as of right now, we have made the decision not to operate any parades because we can't figure out the social distancing appropriately for that. Now, I do think, and I think others in the industry believe that, the more things get open and the longer this goes, that some of these guidances that are coming from CDC and are going to self-implode eventually. I mean, you can see it just with what's happening around the United States with protesting and that nature, where you have large crowds already close together. And ironically, that's going to actually be a good test for COVID-19, because if there's no surge on hospitals because of that within the next 10 to 14 days, I think that's going to open up some thoughts of mass gatherings may not be as bad as people thought. As our epidemiologist has told us, is they can't do these tests because there's no vaccine. So, nobody's going to volunteer and say, let's do a cluster of people and see if we get it. but the protest, and I apologize for my dogs if you hear them in the background. The protests in and themselves, I think, are going to be an offshoot that might benefit, whether or not large crowds are going to create a surge, which may help sporting events and things and parades and those types of things get open. But we're not doing any parades. John Hollenbeck, you might be able to. I don't think Disney, and I'm not speaking for Disney or Universal, but I don't believe they're doing any parades as at this point right now either.
Yeah, there are a couple, like at Universal, I attended last week, and they are pulling one float out with some characters on it and going through the streets just to be able to add some entertainment content, but they're not doing full-blown parades where people are waiting on the side of the street for the parade to come by. It's more just of a moving entertainment option. So I haven't seen any direct parades quite yet.
Great, thank you. And we have another question. How are you projecting attendance for the attractions and parks that you are opening? How are you projecting that? I mean, obviously, you know, that's going to involve your staffing, and there are a lot of other things that, you know, will lead into that. But how are you looking at that right now?
Yeah, so, you know, again, based on where we're approved to operate, you know, tells us whether or not we can open at a 25% or 30% capacity. So basically, we know what that capacity is at 25 to 30%, and then with the reservation system where everybody needs a reservation to come, we can pretty well gauge what that attendance number is going to be and handle our staffing appropriately based on that.
Great, thank you. All right. Not sure if we have any other questions, Tom. Are we going to be leading into the looks like an open discussion about now?
Well, I think it's perfect cue for Jason to go back to work. Thank you for Jason for all of your time and your expertise. Much valuable information. As Jason indicated, these plans are completely transparent. And yesterday we did send out to everyone the Fiesta Texas plan and a Tennessee plan, thanks to Mr. Stone. Performing arts is very important. The arts is very important here, Jason. So I do have just one kind of last question for you. Hopefully you're still with us and not with the dogs, but is the performing arts, the indoor theaters, and of course the outdoor theaters as well that has seating. But so how are you still continuing your entertainment program? And then and very briefly, specifically, if you are continuing your indoor theaters in particular, what are you doing?
And so at the current time, our entertainment program is on hiatus, and that's really just because of the size of attendance. But as attendance grows, we'll start bringing those things back. What we have built into our plan is a seating plan in order to keep guests socially distant and so on. And then it's a matter of picking programs that can be done where the actors themselves can be socially distant. So in Frontier City, we are actually operating a magic show, but it's instead of the magician with his or her partners, the magician themselves. And the magic that they're doing doesn't require the closeness of someone else. Also in Frontier City, we are operating the stunt show, the Wild West Stunt Show, because those actors, they're running around the set and can stay socially distant from one another as well. So where we are going to do entertainment is going to be in those types of venues where the show itself can operate without putting the actors and actresses at risk as well.
That's great. We have several theaters here that are obviously being very cautious that is great advice. So Jason, again, thank you for all of your expertise and your time. We know you have to get back because you have about 28 parks to open here in the next month or so. So again, you're welcome to stay, but we understand that you do want to get back to the opening plan. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I hope it was beneficial to everyone. And if there's any questions after I leave, please just get them to Tom and Hillary, and I'll be happy to answer them through email if you'd like. And again, hopefully it was beneficial. And I'm always I'm one not to reinvent the wheel, and everybody has a great idea. So if there's something I'm missing, feel free to throw that to Tom and Hillary as well.
Well, we should ask you, since we're I think the closest Six Flags park is Magic Mountain. Is when do you have an estimate of when Magic Mountain is going to open?
Well, I can only say it feels like California is gaining traction, and there might be some opportunity in July, but there's no real fixed date at this point in time. It's where the state is, and we're just waiting to see. So you know, we're all hopeful, but there's no absolute yet in California.
Okay, great. Again, Jason, have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you, everybody, for your patience. We wanted to give Jason and the folks an opportunity to have their questions answered. Hillary will probably be muting because instead of hearing dogs, we'll be hearing helicopters over her house. So our next speaker to kind of let us know how it's going in Pima County and with the Pima County Attractions and Tourism Department, we have Diane Frisch, the director, joining us. So Diane, are you there? Looks like you're still muted.
Everybody hear me?
There you are. Yeah, you're back.
There we go. Back on video, back on audio. Watch out. Good morning, fellow Pima County warriors. I said, what happened to the attractions and tourism business? We've become day-to-day coordinators of trying to get back for something we never imagined would happen. The good news is we do see some movement and we do see some attractions opening. The difficult thing is we would love to be able to provide for everyone a PowerPoint or a one sheet that says, here's how you open. Do these steps and you're good to go. But as you know and are experiencing as we go along, each day, each facility is a little bit different with different considerations based on capacity. Are you indoor, outdoor? What considerations do you need to make for your staff and for your guests? So we continue to rely on direction from the CDC and Pima County Health Department. What we have seen is a slow, measured approach is really the best. We do have some attractions beginning to open. What they have done is really sat down with their supporters and their staff, particularly with their staff, to make sure that their staff feels comfortable with new guidelines, with reduced capacity, with safety measures that are put in place, and that they're communicating with their supporters and using social media to reach out to people and let them know what to expect. I think we've seen those that are being successful are finding ways to still communicate with the public in general and with their supporters, whether that's online, giving classes, doing updates, things that they can do and socially distance, providing instruction, providing all kinds of information. but also in their rollout, preparing them for what to expect. Desert Museum is certainly one of our attractions within Tucson that will be opening. What they've done is an excellent job of sitting down with their staff, their donors, and their supporters to say, how do we need to alter the experience of Desert Museum? How can we reach out to people and let them know what to expect? And always that it's better to start slowly and modify as we need to go the opening, but be sure people are prepared for what they're going to see when they come to Desert Museum. Same thing, Pima Air and Space will be opening, a measured open. For them, the advantage is they do have large hangar space, but a consideration that they've made is they'll be altering, obviously they won't be doing boneyard tours, they won't be doing trams outside, they've stepped up their cleaning, and they won't be having volunteers to begin to start out with. Signage, social distancing, which can all be downloaded from the internet. So at least you're giving in your gift shops or in your space, it may be you alter, we have one-way entrance and exit. We used to go in and out the same door. Now you're coming in one door and out another. Measured and timed entry. We've seen some people that are going to reservations. Would be great if you can do online reservations. If not, it can be as easy as it's the new normal. We must have a reservation time for you. So training and letting the public know what to expect is certainly important. So when they get there, they know what kind of experience to have. And remember, you're not in this alone. It won't be just your attraction. It will be all attractions have a new normal. So as people begin to venture out and feel more comfortable, they'll find that at every experience they go to. In working with the state of Arizona, what we do have an advantage of and what we're seeing, air travel will continue to lag, so we won't have visitors coming in right now from out of state or internationally, but we do have drive traffic. So people are looking to come within a 6-hour car ride. So we'll see visitors from adjoining states or from other areas of our state that will be coming down. They seem to feel what we're seeing in the research comfortable with outdoor venues right now where they can socially distance, where they could maybe hike, bike, be outside. And as they feel comfortable doing that, they're moving more to indoor venues. But they do want to see, what can I expect when I get there? What kind of cleaning procedures are in place? What are the staff expectations? Are they wearing masks? Will I be required to wear a mask? What about food and beverage? So it's very clearly stated, if you are not opening your food and beverage, are you allowing them to bring things in? Those kinds of things, that as we continue to move through this. As we get closer to September, end of August, and U of A returns, the U of A campus will come back more to life. You're seeing the ticketed indoor performance venues are having the most difficult time. They're based off volume or high attendance. Those are going to be the ones that are going to have to wait a while to see, how do we hold performances, but with social distancing in that. So We will continue to give updates through Pima County Health Department. We will continue to share information that we have and best practices from other venues. I would encourage you to reach out to your fellow attractions. Say, what are you doing? What are you finding? Are there additional resources? Have you found an alternative way to do things? Because we're seeing some good ideas bubble up from people. We're also seeing some new events coming to the forefront where we didn't have those before. Drive-in movies, outdoor concerts where you're in your car. It's a little bit of a throwback, but again, people are starting to venture out where they feel comfortable. Phased reopening, I would certainly, phased reopening, I would certainly say take baby steps, which I think everyone is looking at and continuing to do. Don't full on expect to open under normal conditions. Baby steps. Make sure your staff is feeling comfortable, your donors, your boards are aware of what you're doing, can offer support, and then venture out slowly. And you'll see, as I said, some of the attractions, particularly those with outdoor elements, begin to open in the coming weeks.
Diane, yeah, I heard a story with the drag strip and the fairgrounds are starting movies. Is it this weekend?
They actually have had some in the past.
Okay.
They're now venturing on where they find people feel comfortable in cars. They're actually 12 feet apart. They're doing double features. You can bring your chairs. That's happening not only out at the fairgrounds and the drag strip, it's in Oro Valley. There are a couple of those popping up all over. People are feeling like, okay, I'll be in a confined space, but outside with those that I'm in my home, so I feel comfortable. Who knew drive-in movies would be the new thing? There are some drive-in concerts happening up in Oro Valley where people are in their cars and confined, but still enjoying music. So I think we'll continue to see some of these new ideas pop up. And then as people feel more comfortable, they'll begin to venture out more.
Yeah, it's really exciting to hear about the creativity. I noticed also on the, I think it was on the Pima County website, that the health department, in particular in the food outlets, aren't not necessarily looking for violations right now. They're looking for ways they can help you.
Absolutely not. We're not here.
Right.
We're not here to shut things down. We're here to try to help people open things up, but also do it in a safe way so we don't have problems or we're not looking for violations, but people feel comfortable. The restaurants that are opening, from what we're seeing, again, those that are being more successful are trying to adapt in a low-cost way without totally reinventing the business. So maybe instead of printed hard menus, they're now doing copy menus that can be handled once and thrown away. A server that used to do bar service for several tables is now dedicated to one table. You'll see gloves and masks on them. The service may be a bit longer, but it's because you have a dedicated server, and that's happening in the back of the house too. So there's controlled entry points for you as you move through. And we're beginning to see more people come out. Different areas of the town are a little bit different. Whether that's demographically, they feel a little bit more comfortable. We don't know, but we'll continue to get that research as we see and get feedback from restaurants, bars, venues that are starting to open.
Great, Diane. One last question. I understand that the City of Tucson's Economic Initiative Department has been having weekly seminars, webinars, and that they have one coming up featuring Jan and some B2B task force discussions. Is that something, do you have that specific date, and then we can send that information to everybody, or you can send it to me and I'll send it out to
Sure, I can send it to you and you can send it out. Barbara Coffey at the City of Tucson has been doing weekly updated COVID information. Jan Lesher will be on the next one, which is for Monday, the 15th from 3 to 4. And I'll be happy to send you that information along with Lonnie Anderson from our health department will be on that. And then also Mark Evans from communications as we talk about what kind of information can we put out, what's helpful to people, how can we keep them up to date, and provide the information that they're looking for.
That's fantastic. I would encourage everyone to join in that Monday because it's just a continuing opportunity to learn what's new and how Pima County Health Department in particular is reacting to what's going on right now currently. So thank you, Diane, a world of great information, and thank you for staying on top of this.
You bet.
Yes, thank you, Diane.
So our next, I don't believe Mary was going to join us, our marketing chair, but she has asked Linda Fahey to talk for a few minutes about, as the attractions are slowly and safely opening, we felt that the Southern Arizona Attractions Alliance should do what it can to help put the marketing word out. So obviously we have some resources that we would like to share with everyone. Most important, it's the communications of what your current status is very important. So through various emails and communications, we've asked you to keep us, and might as well keep all of us, informed of what your opening plans are. As soon as you kind of have an idea, please let us know. But we do want to do the best we can to help you get some business back when you are open. So Linda has a tentative plan that we are thinking about launching soon. And of course, as more and more of the attractions open up, we'll gear that up as well. Mary has had extensive conversations with Visit Tucson as well. So our plan is being done in coordination with Visit Tucson's plan. From what Mary has indicated to me is that the resorts are now open, and Visit Tucson has been reaching out to the folks, especially the leisure visitors from the Phoenix area, and inviting them to kind of take off a weekend or something like that and enjoy our resorts, of course, who are operating also in very much CDC safety standards. So Linda, are you there?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Nice seeing everyone today. So the SAAA Marketing Committee asked us to put together a plan to try to push the books and the discount offers that we can do online. We put together a strong campaign with radio, some TV, and some print. With the print, with the Arizona Daily Star, we applied for the grant they were offering. And so we applied for a $1,500 grant, of which they gave us. I'll take it from the radio. We're looking at doing a promotion with iHeart, their station My, and it'll encompass spots, on-air promotion, giveaways, social media contesting, etc. The Cox Cable, they are pretty much matching our spots dollar for dollar. So we're running spots, we're getting taggables, and then we're going to get promos as well as PSAs. For the Arizona Daily Star portion, what we wanted to do is work with the hashtag This Is Tucson product, trying to get into those younger demographics with families. And the other product we wanted to use for them is the digital in-banner video on the Tucson.com site. And so that's what our plan looks like as of now. It hasn't been approved. The big message we want to get out is that attractions are opening and we want you to come. We worked on a little messaging. Hold on one second. And we were thinking of something like this: we're open when you're ready. Explore Southern Arizona with the best deals on area attractions. The Book of Fun gets you 2-for-1 admissions, discounts, and more. Buy a 3-day, 7-day, or annual passport book, or get the digital pass delivered right to your phone. Buy now. So that's our messaging that we're thinking of. It has not been approved yet.
Yeah, so of course we're being responsible, and we haven't pulled the trigger yet. We have felt that we need to get a little bit more information on the attractions that are opening. We do want to be a resource along with Pima County and Visit Tucson on what attractions are opening, and in particular where you could go and find any specific safety information or operational information that you need before you actually go and visit the attraction. So we wanted to be prepared, have a plan, so to speak, in the can where we can release it. I have to mention to you that certainly we are hoping to release this at least in some portion just prior to the 4th of July weekend. We are still receiving feedback from individuals on what's the best time to release it, and obviously in partnership with Pima County and with Visit Tucson, we all want to be obviously communicating the proper message so we don't confuse. We do believe with Visit Tucson's marketing strategy that locals and regional visitors are obviously the route. The resorts during the Memorial Day weekend saw a considerable bump in occupancy with folks from California. So Tucson's always been a wonderful drive market. Sometimes we haven't focused a lot of money in the nearby markets. We're predominantly a local marketing organizations and rely on Visit Tucson to promote to folks that want to spend the night here. And I think you'll, as some of those that were around for 9/11 when we adopted a local marketing campaign, were very successful in getting people to come back to our attractions, get the people off the couches. We do know, of course, that the challenges are to help our staff and our visitors feel comfortable before they actually go through the turnstile. So we're being very cognizant of that. So we are aware. Thank you, Linda. We are aware, obviously, of some attractions that have opened. I don't know if, I think she said she might not be able to be on, but I'll just throw it out there that the Arizona Zipline Adventures did open and put some nice literature together to let everybody know what the new safety rules are before you got there. Is there anybody on the phone from the Zipline? Okay, I understand it went well. Obviously, they did learn monitoring and talking with the folks and make sure there's social distances, and before you actually take the plunge down the zip line. And they do have an excellent food and beverage system there. And again, following Pima County and CDC guidelines was very much in place. We're excited to hear about the Desert Museum opening. So, Kat, are you on? Are you on still? Okay. That's two. So is there anybody else? I think we can go ahead and unmute if you like. And is there anybody else that has a question or would like to share any opening stories, or at least maybe some opening planning stories? Let's try this and see if anybody would like to just join in and talk for a few minutes.
Hi, this is Krista Stoker with the Tucson Desert Art Museum.
Yes, good morning.
Hi, good morning. So we have made the decision to remain closed until September 2nd. Normally we're closed during July and August anyway. So we wanted to open in June, but we just held off on that. I'm wondering, our traffic and our demographics are generally towards the older folks and the snowbirds that come in annually. And we're not sure what's going to happen down the road, whether, you know, a second wave is going to come in and what's going to happen to that. But I'm wondering about attracting locals back in September when it's still really hot and it's, I don't know, is anyone doing any type of special entry fee reductions or anything like that? Or is that just really not all that important to attract people back into your facility? That's my question.
If I could I jump in and answer that question?
Sure.
That's a great question. I want to remind you that you have an offer already in the Passport of Attractions book, and that has been extended. Our current book has been extended through November. So your offer that's in that book is a great offer to promote. And that is what Tom is talking about and what Linda Fahey was also talking about. When we promote the Southern Arizona Attractions Alliance, we're really promoting the Passport book itself. That's our best way to promote all of the attractions. So most, if not all of them, have two buy one, get one ticket admission offer. You don't have to rethink that. You can promote that as well if you want to on
Okay.
whatever means you have that's quick and easy. So that's a quick response that I have, because it works so well out there quietly that many people forget about the Passport. And also right now, even if you don't get a lot of redemptions of the Passport book coming into your attraction in the past, but you get some, right? Everybody gets some every year. If you're open, or if you have a different kind of attraction, it may be much more of interest now. Different attractions will now be more appealing to some groups of people. And so you can remind people where you are in town and that you're a quiet, tucked away, nice, large art museum, but in a quiet corner of town, away from downtown or away from crowds, or however you want to market yourself. But that would be one way to position the Desert Art Museum, because it is in a great location for locals. So it's not crowded. Anyway, that's all I have to say, is that I think everybody needs to look at their attractions again and look at, well, what are the criteria people are selecting for right now for their leisure experiences, and how do I have any of those qualities that certain groups of people, maybe it's only certain groups of people, younger people, families, older people, are they looking for an attraction that has the kind of attributes my attraction has? So not being crowded is a great one, right? And art museums are pretty rarefied already. So you have some sweet spots right there for locals, definitely. And everybody does. Everybody has something that they have to offer. I think you just have to be a little more specific, and, so.
Right, that's understood. I had forgotten about the Passport program because I believe that we did not re-sign up. So, but it is extended through November.
That would be our current look.
Right. Yeah. So let me just throw a couple things in there as well in regards. Obviously, Linda.
This one.
Obviously, Linda has a very keen ear to where we need to put the information of where or when you're going to reopen. I think right now we don't really have a master calendar per se concept in Tucson, so you have to kind of put your information out in multiple places. But we are very much in contact with the Arizona Office of Tourism, who has put together an opening online calendar to let people know what attractions are open statewide. The Arizona Star is staying very much on top of what is opening. There's a lot of interest with the media now of what is opening. So if you haven't looked at your press information, I would look at it now, because again, they're all hungry for opening information, and we do our best to put the releases out generically. We will keep our websites updated on an ongoing basis, but again, we're only as good as the communication that is sent to us or that we hear from media outlets. So we are going to do our best. I know Visit Tucson and Pima County, we're all interested in once you feel comfortable opening, and we understand why, especially those with they get more of the senior audiences, until people start feeling comfortable going back out, especially the 60, 65 plus population. We understand that maybe opening in June right now is not really the best choice for your employees or for your particular visitors. Is there anybody else who would like to jump in?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Gentry.
I guess. So we're tentatively planning to reopen with a member soft opening on June 19th, a few days reserved just for members, and then to the general public on the 23rd. We have not announced this yet. It's not public. We are waiting through the weekend. We were hoping to see some data about cases and whether they're rising or declining based on some of the reopening eases and restrictions mid-May and onward. But we are, like I imagine most other museums, probably in Tucson, but everywhere that I've been in communication with, are moving to a timed ticket entry system. And we're trying to promote online tickets as much as possible. And to that extent that we are actually not honoring any discounts except for our Museums for All discount, which is a discount for SNAP and WIC card holders. And the reasoning behind this is because, one, it's pretty hard to validate a discount online. So SNAP and WIC card holders will be asked to present their card with their digital ticket when they come in. We will have some exceptions for walk-up traffic, but they'll only be able to purchase tickets if there's capacity. So for the most part, this did not concern me at all, but I hadn't really taken the passport into consideration. So we are not interested in selling tickets through a third party. We want to keep them within our system. If there's a way where we can work it out that we could take phone reservations and somehow validate those vouchers, like digitally over the phone, we would consider that. So I just wanted to bring that up. So maybe I'll have to get with a couple of you guys offline to talk about what options there may be.
Yeah, we certainly believe you should, and we do have a way that you'll be able to validate we do anticipate, obviously, especially some of the digital offers that are out there with the passport. So we'll work with you on making sure you can validate all of those.
Okay.
Some folks ask who you are.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to mention that. The Mini Time Machine Museum of Miniatures.
Great. Thank you, Gentry. Let's see, Ed. I thought you might join in just for a second here with some wisdom on some of the quick ideas that, when you decide you're going to open, what are some of the best practices to let people know that that's happening. And then, of course, I think what we learned from Jason today is that when you do let people know that you're going to open, make sure you can direct them to your website or some source where they can see how you're opening, what your safety measures that are in place. And so you kind of help create that comfort before they even step through your turnstiles. Ed? You're still muted. You're still muted, Ed?
Hold on.
There you are. Ed?
Go this way. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you're in.
Okay, now you can hear me. All right. Tom, the information that Jason gave us was excellent. Diane made a great presentation, and so did Linda. And I don't have that much to add to it, but I would just say that in putting the message out that you are reopening is to let people know what is the product that you're pushing and you're opening for. That's obviously the safety to the guest and the safety to the staff is important. Somewhere in that message has to be told. What is expected from the guest once they arrive and become a participant in your product, that needs to be conveyed. And then I think, as I said in one of the other meetings that we had online, is that letting the people know that this is a long-term message. It's not an urgent message that you've got to come right now, because some people are going to say, I'm not quite ready to make that move. I'm not quite ready to get into that kind of a situation. I think those are the things you need to be. I would also, someone mentioned in earlier about being creative and reinventing your product. I think this is a time when a lot of attractions are going to have to do that, but I think they're smart enough that yes, we're going to do some reinventing of our product. And then the last couple of things is work on better guest relations and better guest experiences. That kind of comes with the reinvention, but make sure that the staff is really up to speed on guest relations and guest experiences so that they do that. And then the other thing, and the last point I wanted to make, is getting that message out to the locals, getting it out to that day drive, but do not forget the long term and the group tour business. It is going to come back. It may be next year, and I'm sure it will be, but be sure you get that message out to those people. I'll be happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything.
Thank you, Ed. Dan Gibson, are you still on the line that you can come on and maybe expand a little bit from Ed's comments, being a local boy?
What was that question?
Are you there? Are you there, Dan? Oh, I see that Dan was on there, but he's probably still muted. He did indicate on the chat room that, are you there, Dan? I heard something there. Dan did indicate in the chat room that he is here to help. He's with Visit Tucson, and he's our local PR guy and our kind of culinary expert here in town. So thank you, Dan, for mentioning that in the chat room. And if you happen to get your voice working, just let us know. I did see that somebody came back on from the Desert Museum. Are you there?
Tom?
Yes.
Hi, it's 10 o'clock.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so at this point, I am not really seeing any more questions. And as Wendy reminded me, we wanted to end the meeting pretty close to on time. We ran over a little bit last May during our May meeting. I do want to let you know that we've been sending out a lot of resource information via emails, and we are going to post all of that on the Southern Arizona Attractions Alliance webpage under really reopening / COVID-19 resources. We've got just a vast amount of resources that we've been able to put together to help you develop your plan. And I think what's come out of this meeting is if there's any things that are happening while attractions are opening, we will ask the membership to share those stories as well. So I want to thank all of you again for joining with us. We're with you, we're for you. We'd like to do anything we can to help you get back to whatever that new normal might be. And I'll turn it back over to Wendy.
So I want to thank everyone who was able to join us this morning. Please look for more information on the July Governor's Conference on Tourism. I believe the dates are July 22nd through 24th. It will be a virtual conference this year, but we still encourage you to attend if at all possible. And we'll be sending out information as we receive it. Again, it was wonderful seeing everybody, and I'm glad you were able to join us. And as we come to our next normal, we will let you know if we're going to be meeting live or via Zoom again for July. I'm sorry, for August. Hopefully we'll be live by August. Thanks, thanks again.
Thank
and
you,
have a
Wendy.
great day.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good day.